Hello, welcome back to Be Inspired. So just absolutely eternally grateful to be talking to this incredible legend right here, Cynthia Kersey from the Unstoppable Foundation. She is our guest today. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Jared.
You froze there
go.
for a second. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to do the best that we can. At least hopefully we will be good. Well, in any event, welcome. I'm excited to have you here. Thank you so much for the time. And I just want to share with everyone a little bit about my experience, and I will let you take the floor. So Cynthia is she's a best-selling author. She's a philanthropist. She's a legend. She has a huge amount of influence. She's a world-renowned speaker. She moves people through inspiration, which is so huge. There's so many, motivational speakers out there, but that is not the way that she does things. She really, comes from a place of contribution. She's inspired countless leaders, inspired by and inspiring so many, up and coming leaders. And she's got this incredible organization. Now 2009 is when you started.
2008.
2008. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, she started this program called Move Forward by Giving Back. And I'm so excited. I virtually attended one of your events a few months back. And I was just so struck by the cause and how much people were able to get behind you, but also what you're doing to help other people. So, welcome. And would you share with us a little bit about your story? I would love to hear it. I think so many people would as well.
Well, thank you, Gillian. It's so nice to see you. So, I wasn't raised with the idea of having a purpose or, literally my mom's two pieces of advice for me is to get a good job and to marry a good husband. Like that was it.
Yeah.
And so, when I did get married, I was kind of focused on my family and kind of moving my career forward. And I didn't know there was a better way. I didn't know, right? So I ended up leaving a corporate job. I cashed in my entire life savings. I downsized our life to write my first book, Unstoppable. And in that process, I met someone who became very significant to me. He was the founder of Habitat for Humanity, Millard Fuller. And so I just so resonated with his life, and what he was committed to in the world. And so my book came out. I'm living my purpose, which was to inspire people to live unstoppable lives. And 18 months after the book came out, my 20-year marriage ended. And I was devastated, right? That wasn't what I thought the plan was. And I called Millard and told him what had happened. And he said, when you have a great pain in your life, you need a greater purpose. And I thought, what do you mean? I left a corporate job. I mean, I'm living my purpose. But that purpose was not bigger than my pain. And so he said, well, why don't you build a house for a family in need? And of course, that's what the founder of Habitat for Humanity would recommend. And he had just gotten back from Nepal and he said, oh my gosh, Cynthia, it's so beautiful. And yet it's one of the most impoverished nations in the world. And so I thought, well, how many houses would I need to build that would offset this pain in my life? And understand, I'd never built one house before. I'd never raised money before. I didn't even know where Nepal was, right? But yeah, I didn't even know. But I thought, and it was $2,000 to build a house. So I thought, I don't know, what, 2 houses, 5 houses? And it wasn't even close. And it wasn't until I got the number 100 houses that felt bigger than my pain. So here I am, a brand new author living on a $14.95 book. I don't have a big, this is 20 some years ago, when
Yeah.
1998. Yeah. You know what I mean? We didn't have big lists, anything like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that I had was a purpose that was bigger than my pain. And so that year, when I was speaking about being unstoppable and grieving and going through my own process, and sometimes not even feeling like getting out of bed, I would think of those families that didn't even have a simple, decent place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that kept me going. And when I was speaking, I gave, now I know what it's called. Back then I didn't know, but Mary Morrissey is a dear friend of mine, and she calls it a FINO invitation. Feel invited, not obligated. And that's what I did. I invited people, if they felt inspired, to donate money to help build these houses in Nepal. And that year I raised $200,000, took a group of 18 people to Nepal the following year, and we helped build the first 3 of the 100 homes. And what was interesting about that was it was so profound for me, because I thought I was doing something great for them. And I was, but what I hadn't anticipated was how it would change my life at a very fundamental level. Like, I got giving at a level that I'd never experienced before. And what was also interesting, Gillian, is I made more money that year selling a $14.95 book than I did working at Sprint making a 6-figure income. And so that was my beginning of really understanding the law of giving, kind of on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Seeing in action how that worked in my own life.
That's so huge. I mean, just that inspiration to create and do something for others, it really is so powerful. And as I was, reading about you and your story, I was just like overtaken by this desire to be able to do so many more things for others. And that power to look outside of yourself. You said when it was hard thinking about those families, that makes such an impact, because we all have it pretty good, as much as we might complain, we have it pretty good here. So
we have a great.
Yeah.
We have a great. Yeah. I mean, even the most challenged, populations in the United States is like, being wealthy compared to some places around the world. So, but for me, what's exciting is really understanding this spiritual, law of giving. And I've learned it from Millard and from my own life and other people. And when we get that, when we give, we actually activate receiving in our lives. So lots of times we'll think, oh, I feel inspired, but oh no, I'm going to wait till I have more money, more time, more resources. And what happens is we're constricting the flow because we've stopped it, right? But when you give, you actually activate receiving in your life. And so we need to be not only good givers, but good receivers. Because if we're not receiving it, we're also stopping the flow of good to us. So I think that's a very important piece to kind of look at.
It's interesting that you say that, because that kind of falls in line with the question that I wanted to ask about how it changed your mindset. But I think that people are learning the concept of giving. I think receiving is hard, is really hard. I think I've always loved giving gifts, finding the perfect gift, being able to do what I can for other people, but being like, I don't need anything. I'm fine. I don't want for anything. And I think that you're right.
That's right. And then you're like really telling the universe, I don't need anything.
Right.
And really, money is for circulation. And as I bring in money, I'm able to help more people, right? It's the circulation. Hold on, I was looking for a quote here that I just love. I think I sent this. Oh, here. Every dollar I circulate enriches others and returns to be multiplied. So it's like, as I give, it comes back to me, and it's just this perpetual cycle. I don't know if you've ever read Thomas Troward. He wrote a book, The Hidden Power, and part of it was called The Spirit of Opulence. And he says, and he really talks about the psychology of wealth. And he said, we're not supposed to keep our riches locked up like in a miser's chest for our own benefit, but we're centers of distribution. And the greater the outflow is the same corresponding inflow. So when I just spent a weekend with Mary Morrissey, and we went to visit our dear friend Bob Proctor. And so, it's like spending a weekend with them, and they're so immersed in this consciousness. But it's like, you can't outgive God, and the more you give, the more it comes back, where you can circulate it for even more good. And it's kind of a little counterintuitive. And a lot of people feel that if I give to you, I don't have enough to give to someone else.
Right.
But it's the opposite. The more I give, not out of a place of obligation, but a place from inspiration. And I think because that's generative, it's in spirit.
Yeah. And I love this idea, this concept, and this consciousness of being able to give enough to create those God-sized dreams that you have. That makes such an impact. Now, you mentor people, and you share this knowledge through your programs and what have you. How do you, obviously this is for entrepreneurs, and you've trained a lot of entrepreneurs. How do you have newer entrepreneurs? How do they seek out mentorship and, get people that will teach them these concepts, like you, like other mentors that are out there?
Well, I don't do a lot of mentorship now, but I mean, I certainly did in the past, and I do, not like Mary and Bob. I think they do this really better than anybody that I know. So I recommend studying their work. I mean, there's so many people, but I think they embody it. When you look for a mentor, it's like, who is embodying, and who's living, and who's getting the results that you want to get. And Mary and Bob give in a way, like they give the way I want to give, and they receive the way I want to receive. And I've been very humbled over the years to get really good at receiving. And it is humbling, but I understand the law of giving. And I get, when they give to me, or they're supporting me, or they're supporting my work, I know it's going to come back to them as well. So, like we said before, I think it's really important to become aware of what we are telling money, or what we are telling people when they want to give, like what you said. And the truth is, money is God in action. And the more money I have, the more I'm able to bless other people.
Wow.
Period.
I want to bless lots of people.
Me too. And I want you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. How did, this is so interesting, because your vision has shifted. When you were looking at, 2 homes, 3 homes, 5 homes, 100 homes, when you got to that 100th home, did you then think, I want to do 1,000, I want to do 100,000? Like, did your vision shift, and is it now where you imagined it?
Mm-hmm. You know what? It shifted completely, because it wasn't like, oh, I want to build more houses. It was like, what's next?
Yeah.
And so the big what's next for me, I did a lot of other things, working with women's shelters and children and, all sorts of stuff. But the next big thing for me was my second book, Unstoppable Women, came out. And I was looking for that next, what's that next thing that I can do to be of service? And I was invited out of the blue to attend. Is that an animal?
No, I have it right here.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Okay. But I was invited to attend a rural African women conference, like out of the blue. And you know how when you just get these, this intuition, like you should say yes, even though it's inconvenient and it doesn't even make sense. But I said yes. And literally, within a week, I booked my flight. I was over there, and, I was with 40 women from North America, and we flew into this or drove in. It was like a 2-day drive into this area. It was like a campus, and we were met by women from all over East Africa. Many of them walked to get there, babies on their back.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I felt like I was in heaven. Like that's how it felt for me.
Yeah.
And then for 5 days, I was just so happy being with them and hearing their challenges. And in the beginning, you know, I was so empathetic, and then I just got pissed off. And I'm thinking, this is not okay that they're dealing with things that we would never have to deal with. You know, their children, you know, dying of malaria, which, you know, they can be treated for the price of a cup of coffee. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so when we left, we were all crying, and they said, please don't forget us. And I thought, well, who am I? Like, what can I really do truly that would even matter? And so I said I would do something. And my 50th birthday was coming up. I remember being at Debbie Ford's house. I don't know if you knew who she was. She was a beautiful, amazing being, an author. And she wrote a book called Dark Side of the Light Chasers. Anyway, amazing person. But I was at her house, and I came up with the idea that this is the first thing that I could do to fulfill that promise. And I had a fundraiser for my birthday. And I invited Debbie, of course, and Ariel and Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey, and they all came. John Chin was there.
Nice.
And, you know, we ended up raising $80,000 that night. And that helped build 2 schools in East Africa. And that was the moment when I felt changed, because number one, I saw how people responded to being invited to give, right? They're like, thank you for inviting us to go to this party. Thank you for helping us, giving us an opportunity to actually make a difference. And then I got serious. And then I started studying and realizing that, you know, how am I going to like make a difference? And in developing countries, building a school is not enough. So I realized not only do I need to build schools, I need to help them have access to clean water, healthcare, you know, nutritious food, training for the parents. It became this whole thing. And so we called it Sponsor a Village. I found partners to implement. And that's been 2008? Yeah, 13 years. 13 years. So, and we're directly impacting over 100,000 people, and indirectly through our emergency relief, about 500,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
So, and you know what? It's kind of like, for me, it's always been an inspiration. I've always felt like called to this work. And so I think that's the key for people when you're looking at, well, what's mine to do? There's so much opportunity to give. And so it's like, what's mine to do? What's yours to do? What inspires you? And maybe you'll start with one project and then you'll try another, you know, and I give to many things. I'm always looking, I understand how this works. So I need to live it as well. And I think that's why I'm a good asker, because I'm also a really good giver.
Wow. It's, you know, I'm so glad that you said that, because I feel like sometimes, you know, people and entrepreneurs for sure get tunnel vision. Sometimes they get, you know, kind of running on this track and not realizing that there are all these other things that you can look at that may be the thing that inspires you. I mean, everybody thought I was nuts when I left medicine to become an entrepreneur, but I just felt that my heart wanted to do that. My heart wanted the freedom. My heart wanted to be able to educate people. And it just became something that I just, even on my worst day, I couldn't imagine ever leaving, because I make a difference, and it's something that feeds my soul. And so that was that same feeling that I had as I was watching this event virtually, just thinking about all of the things that you do and seeing all that you put out. It's such an incredible experience to see it, you know, but you don't always feel unstoppable. You have to have days where you're like, you know, how do you do that when you're not feeling like the unstoppable woman, right? How do you get yourself back on track?
One or two of those days. Yeah. Yeah.
Couple of them.
I think the first thing is you start with gratitude. especially with the pandemic when it first came forward.
Yeah.
It's just like every single day, what am I grateful for? What
Mhm.
is good? Like my health, and it could be like my dog. I mean, it's just the beauty, the trees, my arms, my legs. I mean, literally, I think we have to drown ourselves in gratitude,
Yeah.
because you can't really be depressed when you're really experiencing profound gratitude for everything that you have, number one.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is looking out to see who can you help, who can you give to, who needs, whether it's calling someone or writing a check or doing whatever you can. It's like, I'm always looking, where can I give?
Yeah.
And maybe it's, doing a phone call. Like I said, I don't really do a lot of mentoring now, but it's like, I'm just guided, where should I say yes? And kind of looking. And when you're sorting for that, it's a very generative, energetic, you attract people when that's the kind of energy that you're bringing. I'm not really, even though I raise money and I have a foundation, I don't think people feel like, oh, I'm going to be asking them for something. That's not the
Yeah.
energetic, and it certainly isn't out of obligation. So it's always an invitation. And I think that's really important. If you ask anybody for something, you should always give them an opportunity to say no.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. The gratitude is so important, like on the roughest days, just finding whatever you can to be grateful
wherever you
for, I
can.
really think is
Mhm.
key. What do you recommend for entrepreneurs as they're coming into this new era, so to speak, right? We're
Mhm.
in a completely different space now, like creating new ideas or strategies, and how do they kind of weave in giving into those
Mhm.
strategies?
Yeah. Well, I think you're looking for, how can I be of service? So as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, how can you serve? You're serving, right? So
Hmm.
you're making a huge difference on people's wealth and financial abundance. And then I think it is really, really important to look at, how do you take it to the next level? So do you want to help, women, that are struggling financially, or do you want to help, join forces with an organization like mine that helps women and children overseas? Or I think when you combine your business with a social purpose, it it's the right energetic for you. It attracts other people. It enriches your life, the people that you work with, their lives. I mean, it just magnetizes you and your business. So I think
Hmm.
integrating a social purpose, whatever it is really important. And you can be a solopreneur, or you can be running a company. When I started, I had one book, right? One little book.
Yeah.
And I used that and the proceeds and, some of the profits, and I started putting it into things. And then I always found a project that I could integrate into my business. And it made all the difference in the world, because me personally, at that point, I wasn't motivated to earn money. I was motivated for the impact that the money would make.
Yeah. How you
So,
were going to serve. That's so huge. And that's a lot of, I feel like you just kind of hit the nail on the head as far as why I even decided to do this, because I love educating people about financials and all of those things, but I want to be able to bring the value and give people what they need so that they can be happier and also more successful. And so, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track.
yeah, you're on the right track. All
um,
right.
no, I so appreciate it. Did you have people that as you were going down this path, writing the first book and then even the second, like, did you have people that were maybe naysayers, or that, maybe they had a barrier in their mindset for
Mhm.
giving? Like, how do you handle that, or how did you handle that?
Yeah. So when I was going to quit my job, cash in my entire life savings, downsize my life to write my first
Yeah.
book, people thought I was insane.
Yeah.
And who was I to think that I could even write a book, much less get it published? Yeah, naysayers all the time. So one way of handling it is, number one, you can't listen to them. Number two, you got to find people that will hold that positive vision with you. So, who you hang out with is really, really important. If you have negative people in your life, you got to look at yourself. Why do you have negative people in your life, right? I mean, maybe you're married into it or whatever. But then you got to like really protect yourself against, I mean, it's hard enough anyway, much less having naysayers and things like that. So I think the key thing is to find people that can hold that vision with you and you can support each other. I think that's really important.
That is a monumental statement that you just made, like having someone with you that can hold that vision and being clear on what your vision is first and what you want to be able to create so that you could actually articulate it to someone else and almost enroll them in it, I'm glad to hear that, because I know when I started in business, it was real. There was a lot, and I'm sure many people experience that when they're starting something new, trying something new, a new idea, anything that kind of goes against the grain. I think people are going to experience pushback, and it's how you handle that pushback that ultimately determines if you're able to break through it to the next level, to success, to more happiness, whatever it might be. So that's huge.
It is. And, I think it's important to remember that people's reaction is not even about you. It is completely about them and their own paradigm for success. Yeah. So, my parents were very uncomfortable when I left, a job making a good income. You're going to do what? And I've done so many of these things through the years, and it just was their very high security, high safety. So it's not like people are trying to be mean, but it's just they don't see it as possible. And then, they're trying to protect you or whatever. But when you're with people who understand how this works, they do the opposite. They're like, great, what is it that you want? Feel it. What would it feel like if you accomplished that? What would it look like? What would be possible for you? Who would you be helping? What would you be doing? How would you be spending your days? And you get excited, with this vision. And that's what propels you forward, when you can get emotionally involved in what that mission is.
Just you saying that made me smile. Like, what do you want to do? What would it look like? You know what I mean? It's like the higher law pulling you up. And it's so interesting when you have the people around you that don't do that, but it's so normal and every day for the people who have that mindset. So it's not that you're with bad people. It's not that. It's that you have to shift to be around people that are going to draw that vision and pull that mindset out of you, that you can do it. You can go after it. And the bigger that you can think, the more likely that it will happen.
That's right. Well, did you hear, there's this scripture that says, don't be unequally yoked. It just reminded me of that. And it's like friends. It's like you want to be with people that will lift you higher, period.
Yes.
Period. Like you can't, and what's the book? You can't even afford the luxury of a negative thought. It's the truth. There's so much negativity in the world that it takes everything we've got to stay focused on what we want, why we want it, feeling it. It's work to manage your mind. Takes work. It's probably the hardest work there is, especially when your circumstances look different than what it is that you want.
Yeah.
If you're healthy, or if you're not healthy and you want to be healthy, if you're struggling financially and you want to have money, it's very easy to look at what is instead of what is available. So it's really important.
A mind sealed tightly against all negatives, right?
That's right.
I'm so grateful, because I feel like the mindset conversation, the inspiration conversation is more of what we need to be talking about, because it's not about where you are. It's about where you're going, or where you want to be.
Yeah.
And so,
well, you know what they say, it's 95% mindset, 5% skill set.
Yeah.
When you've got the mindset, you'll figure out how to do it. Yeah. But if you don't have the mindset, you're not going to do anything. You'll just quit.
1,000%. That's so
Mhm.
true. And I love this conversation. This is making me so happy. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time because it's borrowed, and I'm grateful for it. And this is a really inspiring conversation. I have a couple questions for you that are kind of, like I like to keep things light and kind of keep them silly. And I also want to, inspire people to know that we're all real people. So I have a couple of questions like this or that, right? So for you, kind of your preference, like photograph or painting. I know it's silly, but
It's so hard. Probably photograph.
okay.
I like them both, but I could go either way on that.
I'm sure formal dinner or a casual meal. I know, like
very
silly.
indecisive. I mean, I love it both. Like we live on Whidbey Island, and there's this thing called Orchard Kitchen, and they make this whole thing, and it's all these courses, and it's farm, fresh, and that's really great. But then we love cooking really healthy meals too. I think there's a balance, for me. I feel like I love them both. Yeah. So maybe that's a cop out, but I love them both.
I think it's hard to pick as I put these together. I always think I kind of like both too.
I know.
Yeah, for sure. It just depends on what mood you're in.
Well, that's
when I was asking Payman these questions, she was like, "Oh, formal dinner for sure."
Yeah,
for sure. I was like, "I know you love to throw parties."
She does.
She does, and she's very good at it. What about night owl or early riser?
I'm more of an early riser.
Early riser. Okay, so that's good. I believe that. So paper calendar or digital?
I've got my Franklin planner still.
Yes.
If you can believe that.
I totally believe it. I asked somebody the other day. Oh, I have one more question for you. I almost forgot. I asked somebody the other day and she said, "Oh, it's digital for sure." And I was like, honestly, I have both. Like I have
Yeah, me too. I do too.
Physically, I have to physically hold on to things and write them down. And so favorite food from Africa?
That's a good question. I don't even know that I have a favorite food in Africa. Jeez. When we got my brain, they make like this, chicken and, we had a lot of healthy food. We were very fortunate when we were staying there and staying at places that they would cook us healthy food. So just like, I really love, protein and like vegetables and stuff like that. So
good healthy stuff. That's
good healthy stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Biggest surprise from your travels?
I think that we're all the same. I've been in all sorts of cultures and, Africa is very different, but everybody has the same hopes and dreams. Every parent has the same hopes and dreams for their children that we do. Wow. And so it's like the more we're different, the more we're actually the same.
I love that. I think that we need to get back to that mindset of we're all wanting something more. We're all wanting, frankly, just more happiness,
and to love and be loved.
Absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful for the time. I'm thankful that we got an opportunity to connect. I know it's tough. We had a lot going on, and
that's right. We had 2 windstorms. We had another windstorm 2 days ago. And we're supposed to have one tonight.
Oh, well, then it's good we got it done now. Oh, man.
Exactly. Gillian, I really love connecting with you. I love your energy. I love your heart. I love your demeanor. You're very calm. You're very calming. Yeah, really, really a pleasure connecting with you.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor. When Payman mentioned that she was going to ask you about interviewing, I was like, oh, really? That's amazing. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for everything. Everyone, I never get an opportunity to really show my heart and share with you how much I love giving everything that we can to others and doing everything that we can to be able to create a better future for ourselves and for our families. And nobody's a better example of that than Cynthia, just being able to give so much. Yes, it's, financial contributions and what have you, but just, you can see her desire to be able to inspire other people. It's so selfless, and it's an incredible experience. And thank you for being on today. So I just want to share with everyone, be inspired for a great life. That's what we're doing here. Okay. Take care, everybody.
That's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.